Good Monday morning. Let's take a look at what we've lined up for you on today's show.
Today, Dr. Dan Thompson visits with Dr. Dan Fries, a veterinarian with the Beef Cattle Institute. They'll talk about identifying cattle with BRD, learn the importance of managing high-risk cattle, the ones that have been under a lot of stress due to lengthy trucking, a lack of vaccinations, ones that are newly weaned, and lighter weight cattle. Find out about DART, the acronym for an assessment tool used to determine if these cattle are depressed, anorexic, have respiratory trouble, or a high temperature. Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. Doc Talk, brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Welcome to the show. I'm Dr. Dan, and I'm joined by Dr. Dan Fries, who's a veterinarian here at the Beef Cattle Institute at Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine, and sure glad you joined us.
Thank you, Dan, and glad to be on the show again.
It's always fun to have you. Somebody with a lot of real-world experience. You know, you had your own practice and feeding facility, and for 8 to 10 years, well, longer than that. But
yeah.
A lot of experience out there. But you also have training as a veterinarian, and some of the stuff that you're doing here at the veterinary school. Thought it'd be good to kind of have a discussion about what bovine respiratory disease is and how it's set up.
Well, that's I think a great topic to discuss, especially this time of year where we've got lots of calves coming into feed yards. Cattle that are higher risk for respiratory disease are typically younger.
Yeah, let's just start out with that. Let's just talk about when you're going to put a risk on cattle. High risk and low risk. High health risk or high morbidity rates versus low morbidity rates. Which cattle are you lumping in this high risk group?
Cattle that have been under a lot of stress, so we've hauled them a long ways. Cattle that may have not seen a vaccination prior to coming into the feed yard. Maybe they've just been weaned. Those kind of cattle, commingled, lighter weights, lots of different, Those kind of cattle are typically the cattle that we see a lot higher risk for.
And those are the ones that I would, and our lower risk then would be those ones that are coming off of wheat pasture, grass traps, know what a bunk is.
Out of the Flint Hills or the Sand Hills or those big one source group type of cattle.
Cattle that have been weaned. We have well-managed cattle versus what we call mismanaged cattle.
Correct.
Okay, so high risk and low risk. So when those cattle are coming in, is that one of the first things that you're doing when you're thinking is kind of gauging the risk of these?
We assess the risk of those cattle, and it helps us determine how much we want to watch them, how often maybe we ride pens, how we handle them on arrival. Just some of those things, and it just gives us an idea as to what our risk is and how likely we are to have a problem with high pull rates and cattle that are not going to eat well or things like that.
Yeah, and so I see that the management step up, immediately on these cattle that we recognize that are going to be higher risk coming in. So when we get down to it, what are some of the things when cattle come off the truck? What are some things you're recommending? Let's talk about the receiving pen.
Okay. In the receiving pen, we want to have a high quality fresh feed in the bunk, maybe some long stem hay, something that they recognize. We're going to look at vaccinating them on arrival or shortly after. We may recommend metaphylactic administration of an antibiotic.
I think that leads us to a great spot to come back to kind of talk about the processing barn a little bit.
Okay.
And after the break, let's jump right in where we left off on the processing barn.
Sounds good.
Glad you joined us. We're sure glad you joined us. Thanks for watching Doc Talk.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine is a leader in food animal research and education. Our researchers are constantly expanding the knowledge of animal health and food safety. Through the Veterinary Health Center and the Kansas State Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, we provide practical services for animal producers. Home of the Beef Cattle Institute, the college is committed to animal welfare training and research. The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine, knowledge and service for the future of animal production.
If our local animal agriculture industry disappeared, what else would disappear? The buses that get us to school? The playgrounds and ballparks we go to after school? The books and computers that help us learn and grow? Animal agriculture provides millions of dollars in tax revenue that pay for our school improvements, that pave the foundation that will build our future. A message from U.S. soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Purple Wave is a proud supporter of the Kansas FFA through the Bid for Blue program. Purple Wave donates a portion of the proceeds earned on certain ag assets to the Kansas FFA. Winning bidders can designate a Kansas chapter to receive the donation. To date, Purple Wave is proud to have donated over $10,000. Visit purplewave.com to learn more and to place bids on Bid for Blue assets. Purple Wave Auction. Straight, simple, sold.
If your company relies on business vehicles, it all comes together with Briggs Dodge Business Link with business vehicle financing. Business Link is a no-cost membership with advantages such as extended service hours, a dedicated staff, free loaners, shuttle service, and much more. It's about more than being in business. It's about doing business better, smarter, and more efficiently. Briggs Dodge Business Link is custom made for you. Call Briggs Dodge and let them show you how Business Link can help your business.
Kansas Pork Association, assisting producers and informing consumers.
Hi there and welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Dan Fries, Dan Squared today, on the show. And we're talking about Dr. Squared, Dan Squared, and we're talking about high-risk calves. We're talking about identifying sick cattle. We're talking about some management of these high-risk calves in the yard, which as the more high-risk calves you have, the higher risk your low-risk cattle become, because you're spending all your time with these cattle. And so we talked about the processing barn. What are some things, let's bounce it back and forth, some things that we do differently on high-risk calves when we process or run them through the chute on arrival versus low-risk cattle?
Well, we may select vaccines differently. We may add a metaphylactic protocol or add an antibiotic to everybody, in part due to the difficulty of identifying sick cattle in a pen. It reduces the morbidity. It allows us to treat cattle that are sick that we can't identify visually, and reduces the risk of those cattle, and especially compared to if we had done nothing at all.
I think it's important, first of all, you and I both agree, always work with your local practitioner.
Absolutely.
Make sure you draw up, the veterinarian knows your farm, they know your cattle, they know your labor, they know your facility, they know how to help you manage the health risk of these cattle. And when you're picking out, metaphylaxis is a term that's used quite often, but, what exactly is metaphylaxis? It's
basically you select an antimicrobial product and you apply it across the group
on arrival. Okay. Some cattle could be sick that don't show clinical signs.
Correct, and that's where a lot of the benefit of that kind of protocol comes into place, is where we are actually treating sick cattle that we can't identify.
I've heard it said in feed yards and all the veterinary meetings we go to, that metaphylaxis will reduce your morbidity 50%.
That's a nice rule of thumb.
So if you're going to have 30% morbidity using metaphylaxis, you'd go to 15%.
Yep.
And so depending on whether you're trying to harvest and other things that you're trying to do, harvest corn or soybeans and sorghum while you're bringing in high-risk calves, this might be a management tool
to free up some labor and reduce your risks.
Decrease morbidity, decrease mortality.
Yep.
Okay, now, sick cattle and moving these cattle out into the home pen. What's your number one, if you had one thing that you could look at in a calf to identify one that's sick, what would it be?
I'm not sure I would probably put time together and say it's depression and gut fill.
Okay.
So cattle that don't eat get sick, cattle that get sick, don't eat.
Gotcha.
So,
and that would be mine too. I'm always looking for those Gant calves, the ones, there's something just, either they're not competing or they're sick. And something's not right. They're not getting groceries.
Yep, exactly. And so those cattle are higher risk. They're more likely to get sick. They're more likely to be sick. And so we're wanting to identify those cattle and bring them back in, do a little further diagnostic, take their temperature, look at them, maybe give them a antimicrobial.
Let's come back and talk about pen riding after the break, and let's talk about identifying those sick calves out in the pen. You're watching Doc Talk, and we're really glad that you joined us today.
Here in Dallas, we're proud that our vehicles use an advanced biofuel called biodiesel. It's made from renewable resources like soybean oil, canola oil, even recycled cooking oil. This year, biodiesel will displace almost 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. Our air is cleaner, our economy is stronger, and America's more energy independent. It's working here, it can work in your community. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
Tar Waters has what you need for all seasons for around the farm and home. Working, hunting, growing, feeding, snow removal, even fun for the kids. And a service department with experienced techs to help keep your equipment in top running condition. Tar Waters has a huge selection and the best prices. Tar Water Farm and Home, family owned and operated since 1978. They have what you need.
Now another gardening tip with Annette Jackson.
Fall is the best time to plant trees and shrubs for optimum plant growth next year. Always use Fertilome Root Stimulator when transplanting for better root development. Fertilome tree and shrub food should be applied now on all your existing trees and shrubs.
Our fall shrub clearance is going on now. Choose from over $20,000 in new stock and save 25, 33, up to 40% at Jackson.
The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine is a leader in food animal research and education. Our researchers are constantly expanding the knowledge of animal health and food safety. Through the Veterinary Health Center and the Kansas State Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, we provide practical services for animal producers. Home of the Beef Cattle Institute, the college is committed to animal welfare training and research. The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine, knowledge and service for the future of animal production.
Nobody gives you more ways to play and more reasons to stay than Prairie Band Casino and Resort. 3 great restaurants, Players Club benefits, plus an award-winning golf course. Go for it. You'll find something new and exciting every day, just north of Topeka off Highway 75.
Prairie Band Casino and Resort. Go for it!
We're raising a lot of heaven, the country parson.
Howdy. There was nothing more binding than two fellows sealing an agreement with a handshake back in the 1800s. It was the manly thing to do, and behind that gesture was each man's word of trust. At one time, a handshake meant more than a piece of paper. You know, every relationship that you have is built on trust. Your parents, teachers, spouses, friends, even the checker at the grocery store, there is a level of trust that you place in each one. They also place a trust in you. Trust is something that you must earn. By living a consistent life of honesty and integrity, you can build trust. In fact, folks know if you're shooting straight. Understand that all of us are challenged at times, and sometimes we even dent other folks' trusts. You can be forgiven for those times. It's how you handle those situations where you either continue to destroy or rebuild that trust. It is your life. Have you built trust today? Would you like to shake on it? You be encouraged.
Doc Talk, brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Welcome back to Doc Talk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University. I'm joined by a veterinarian here at the Beef Cattle Institute, Dr. Dan Fries. And it's been a pleasure to have you on our staff here at the BCI. They do a lot of good things, teaching a lot of students, meeting producers, practitioners.
It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to be back here at K-State.
And, you know, we're talking about sick cattle.
Yep.
And when we left, I kind of was pinning you down on one or two things, but really the DART acronym has something that we've used as veterinarians or feed yard pen riders and cattle managers for years. What does DART stand for?
It's a great little teaching tool. Depression, anorexia, respiration, and temperature.
So this is for a calf that, if you want to know the acronym for bovine respiratory disease clinical signs, we're using DART.
Very much.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's go through them. D, depression.
Depression.
What's a depressed calf look like?
If they're standing, they're going to be standing head down. Typically, I would describe it as a calf with its head lower than its back, so you're going to see the head down. Ears may or may not droop.
Dull eyes.
Dull eyes. Not going to be paying attention to you as you enter everybody else is paying attention to you, and that one's not, that kind of thing.
Off by itself?
Off by itself. Maybe at the back of the pen.
They're kind of like me.
Up eating.
When I get sick, I just want to be by myself and get those calves. You'll see them standing off by themselves.
Yep.
Anorexia. That's what we talked about before, but what is anorexia?
Anorexia is just a lack of appetite or a lack of feed intake. And in a calf, we see that a lot as you look at the calf behind the ribs, they'll be sunken in behind the ribs in that flank area. They won't have a lot of gut fill. They won't have a lot of feed in them. And they will just look thin and hollowed out, maybe a little dehydrated.
So we're looking for a depressed calf that's off feed, and then we bring in the R.
The respiration. These calves are going to be coughing. They're going to be breathing faster. If you think about an animal that has pneumonia, which is what respiratory disease is, you can't breathe as well, you don't have as much oxygen exchange, and one of the ways the body tries to compensate is you breathe faster.
And also when you get in those times of heat stress with respiratory disease, you know, the calf cools itself through evaporative cooling and respiration, and we knock out 25% of that air conditioner, we've
knocked out a problem.
All right. So rectal temp, normal rectal temp in a calf is 105 to 103.5 degrees Fahrenheit. So, you know, what's your cutoff for when you're temping these calves? Is it 103.5? I hear it's 104. Different people saying that abnormal is different for different cattle, but what's something that you use as a gauge for rectal temp?
103.5, 104, sometime in there. Depends a little bit on our environmental conditions. If it's 110 out and it's in the middle of July, 104 might not be that much of a temperature, but at 50 degrees in October, it means a little bit more. So, but a lot of times these cattle that have good, you know, have a respiratory infection set up will have a pretty good temperature.
After the break, we're going to wrap up with Dr. Freeze on clinical signs of BRD.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
Saddle up and head on down to Roy Fry Western Lifestyles, the finest complete Western store in Northeast Kansas. Look your Western best. Select from 3,000 pairs of boots, Western home decor, and accessories. Near the corner of Highway 24 and Kansas Avenue. Open till 6 during the week, 9 to 5 on Saturday, and Sunday noon till 4. Or you can always shop online. Western people serving your Western lifestyle. Roy Fry Western Lifestyles.
If our local animal agriculture industry disappeared, what else would disappear? The buses that get us to school? The playgrounds and ballparks we go to after school? The books and computers that help us learn and grow? Animal agriculture provides millions of dollars in tax revenue that pay for our school improvements, that pave the foundation that will build our future. A message from U.S. soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Doc Talk, brought to you by Kansas Pork Association, assisting producers and informing consumers.
Hi there and welcome back to Doc Talk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Dan Fries, and we're at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, and we're talking about bovine respiratory disease. We just went through the DART acronym for the clinical signs: depression, anorexia, respiration rate, and elevated rectal temp. Now we need to go find them.
Yep.
Need to get out there, whether you're walking or horseback or four-wheeling it.
Whatever you do, yeah, any of those methods work, but being consistent on what you do when you get in there, get the cattle kind of used to you, I think is a little bit important. But identifying the sick cattle in the pen can be one of the biggest challenges, as cattle tend to hide their clinical signs. But as we get into these pens, get in there, ride through them, make sure we get everybody up.
And it's important to get everybody up because lame cattle sometimes will tend to stay down.
Yeah, and they will look alert, and they will look bright, and they will look healthy. They might just have an injured foot and don't want to stand on it.
Right.
And we want to get them in and make sure we get that attended to.
Yep. Do you have any method you cover the pen, or just do it consistently?
Try to wind through in kind of a serpentine type fashion, and make sure we ride by the water tank every day, check it. Cattle that don't drink won't eat and will get sick.
I've always told the students, the other thing is, you ever drive up the feed bunk and the feed is crowned, run to the water tank.
Yeah.
The reason why they haven't touched any feed is probably because they haven't had any water.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Very important.
Most important nutrient we have in the feed yard is
I'm
water.
with you on that. And so we go in there and ride the pen. How many times a day are you riding on these high-risk calves?
On high-risk calves, we might ride them twice a day. If we're really having problems, one of the things that I used to do, and I thought was pretty effective, is drive by them in a pickup pretty slow. Cattle will a lot of times think if someone in a pickup is not a threat, so they won't pay attention to you. I just carried a pair of binoculars with me, and I could see out there, and I would get a tag number and give it to the cowboys and say, go pull tag number so-and-so. And
you know, we get a lot of farmer feeders too, and one of the tricks that you know, timing the pen riding after feeding. Do you have any thoughts on recommending?
I think it can be a useful tool. The healthy, aggressive calves will come right up to the bunk when you drive by with the feed truck or the feed wagon, and a lot of those sick ones, the depressed ones, don't feel quite right. They'll hang out in the back of the pen, won't be aggressive coming up the bunk, and we can just go in and
scoop them out.
Scoop them out.
And sometimes it's not just pulling them because they're sick. They may not be able to compete, or they may be a passive calf, and putting them in an environment where they can be competitive and feel comfortable going to the bunk
Can make a big difference on those.
Having enough bunk space is important too.
Yes, it is.
On these high-risk calves.
Yes, it is. We got to be able to get everybody at the bunk at the same time and have feed available for everybody at any point in time.
That's what everybody always says to me. They go, how much bunk space should I allow? And I say, make them all fit. I sure appreciate y'all being here on the show today. It's always great to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
We appreciate you watching the show as well. And if you want to know more about what Dr. Fries and I do here at the College of Veterinary Medicine, you can find us on the web at www.vet.ksu.edu. Remember to always work with your local practitioner. We sure enjoy you watching the show today. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here with Doc Talk. We'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.
We'll have lots more for you tomorrow on Ag AM in Kansas. We're here every weekday, same time, same station. Or look for us on the web at agaminkansas.com. Eric Atkinson here from K-State Research and Extension.